Hello, my happy crafters. Creative Juice by Loni, ready to share some more creativity with paper, ink, and stamps. Today we're focusing on paper because we are having a designer series paper sale at Stampin' Up! Right now. It includes all of these beautiful designs that are in the new annual catalog that came out in May for 15% off. So, what can we do with some beautiful designer series paper? I chose to use today the Mediterranean Blooms Designer Series paper. If you choose to scrap along with me, what you will need is a card base. I'm choosing to use white, thick white cardstock, basic white cardstock. You will need a 4¼ by a 5½ piece of designer series paper. I believe I'm using this one right here. Let's check it out right here. That's the one. It has the blue grid on one side and the oranges on the other. And then if you decide that you're going to stamp your focal point, then you will, and color it in, then you will need the same size 4¼ by 5½ piece of white, regular white cardstock. I'm going to layer that on top so that you can't see the coloring through it. This is kind of a fun technique that I just discovered on YouTube that people are making in the art world. And I wanted to bring it to the paper crafting world, the card making world. So it's new, never been done before. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Say hello as you're coming in, or if you're watching on replay, comment replay so I can say thank you to my replay warriors. So we're using the Mediterranean Blooms paper. I'm also going to be using the Citrus Blooms stamp set. Now the Citrus Blooms stamp set and the coordinating dies and the paper and some accessories all come in a suite as well. So if you decide that you want the suite, just make sure to grab an extra set of designer series paper so that you can continue to use it because you'll love it when it's on sale. So this is the Mediterranean Blooms paper number in case you need just the paper. Or if you would like the stamp set, there's the stamp set. And the stamp set is $26. I can't remember what the whole suite is. It's a little bit more because it does include the metal dies to cut out these images. We are not cutting them out today. We're just stamping them. So let's make this beautiful card. And then I'm going to show you an alternative with some upcoming crafting tools from Stampin' Up! in our September through December mini catalog. If you are already on my list of getting the catalog, have you received your catalog in the mail? Let me know. So if you are one of my customers and have not yet received it, then I will make sure that you get it send it to you myself. So I'm going to start by stamping in our Tuxedo black ink pad this image of the beautiful oranges. And I'm going to stamp it about towards the top, about an inch down probably from the top, onto my smaller piece of white. So I've got the image. I'm also going to stamp my words. I'm going to use this one that says, "You're the best kind of person." I'm going to stamp it just below here, hopefully sort of straight. Hello, Jamie. Hello, Carlene. So there we go. We've got "You're the best kind of person." Then I'm going to color them. And the reason I'm doing this on a piece of paper, as I mentioned earlier, is that I don't want to be able to see when you're using your Stampin' Blends, which is some of my favorite ways to color. I don't want to be able to see through where the coloring comes through on the back of the card. So here's some tips for Stampin' Blends. I'm coloring the darkest using my dark Cajun Craze ink. The blends are alcohol markers, that's the word I'm looking for, that come in a set of two, a light and a dark. So I'm using the dark one to kind of shade behind, like underneath this leaf right here would be some shadow. And you can kind of color where the dots or the shading is in the stamp. That helps you to know where to go. So it has little dots right here. You can use dot motions or Just sweeping motions like that. This is going to be the longest part of the card is coloring. And I apologize, but I could have done it beforehand, but some of these things you may want to know. So the next one I'm taking is the dark pumpkin pie. Now these also have two ends. One is a brush end and one is more of a bullet tip. So I'm going to use the bullet tip today because it's easier for me to kind of control where that's going. I'm going to go right over the top of the same dark things that you colored and go out a little bit further. Now the blends, because they are alcohol blends, will just kind of start to meld together. You don't want any harsh lines, so keep coloring. If you see any harsh lines, you want to blend them all out so that there's no visible line, okay? So I've kind of just come out a little bit on that one, blending these colors all together, relaxing while you're coloring. Some people don't like to color. Are you a person who does like to color? Or are you learning to color? Same thing here. So I'm going a little bit further into my image as I'm blending these all together. Okay, we've got some good coloring going. I see a couple of folks who are saying hello. This is a great way. Sometimes if you're like using your paper and you're thinking, I don't want to miss seeing both sides of my pretty paper, my pretty patterned paper. This is going to be a fun one to do. I will say that this card does not fit in an envelope. So this would be one that you'd have to gift. You could put it on the outside of a gift bag. Be great. That'll be fantastic. Now I'm going to the light pumpkin pie, and I'm going to use my brush marker this time just because it's going to be a little faster. I'm going to just leave a little tiny bit of white right there to shine through, kind of like the light was coming down here. So again, I'm going to leave a little white space right above that where I just colored and blend these all together so that there's no harsh lines. So you want it to have some depth. Okay, there's my white space on that one, a little bit bigger. Okay, all of our oranges are colored. We're going to do the same thing on our, let's see, while I have this light one out, I'm going to color the center of these little blossoms. And the yellow will make the blossoms yellow. Light, I think this is lemon lolly. There we go. Hopefully I color in the right spot. And you can even leave a little bit of white on these. It will just let the reflection kind of show. So there's our light ones. Now here's a tip that I learned from a watercoloring lady that I follow on Instagram. And that is to add a little bit of blue to your leaves. So I'm going to use this is dark pretty peacock is what this is. I'm going to do a little dark pretty peacock in the darkest areas where there would be a shadow. So maybe along the veining, you could do that too. Let's see, there will be a little shadow underneath this one. A little bit of blue is just what you need for a realistic looking leaf. So I'm adding that. Thanks for joining me, by the way. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing and commenting. And of course, those who are my customers, I really appreciate you, and you will get a thank you card when you order in the mail. Every time. So I've got my dark blue in there. Then I'm moving to my greens, which are shaded spruce. So the next darkest one, and again, using the bullet tip is a little easier for me to do on this one. So let's see. Anybody else saying hello? And are you starting to feel like you've got your time back if you have kids at home and now they're back at school? So again, I'm just extending some darker green here, some of the dark green over the blue, and blending them together. I'm also going to use this dark green to do the stems right here that are holding onto the blossoms. Don't feel like it has to be perfect. It really does not have to be perfect. Okay, I think we've got some nice dark pieces for our leaves. Then let's take our light one, and this is the one where we blend it really good all together. Oh, try not to go out the level lines like I do. Although it's not a bad thing. We don't mind being unusual and creative, right? But maybe when you're coloring, you don't want to have a big mistake outside the lines. However, we do have a color lifter in the blends, and that will help you to get that lifted up if you make a mistake. I also love to say there are no mistakes in stamping, only opportunities for embellishment. So let me bring this a little closer so you can see this shading. You see how that's coming along? It's just really pretty with the dark and the light, and you want to go back over and make sure that all of the colors are blended together. We're almost done coloring. Thank you for your patience. If you're an impatient crafter such as I am, sometimes you're like, I want to speed this up, which is, you can always come back and watch this and change the speed on YouTube or Facebook. So you don't have to watch all of the coloring, but we're almost there. Okay. Need a little bit of brown for the stems down the middle, right off and I'm really kind of copying or using the designer series paper as my inspiration. So, all right, I'm going to hide this so you don't have to see that. Okay. There we go. Then I'm going to use a little pecan pie to get the stems, and we're done. Beautiful. Beautiful. So I did a card base that was tall. I want my card to be able to stand up to display easily. So I find that this particular 11 by 4.25. I'm looking for my bone folder. 11 by 4.25, and then you scored in half at 5.5. Works really well. So this is the reason that I didn't want to do it on top, even though this is a thick white cardstock base. You will still see the color through the back of it like this, and we don't want to see that on the inside of our card when we open it up. So I'm just putting that to the front, right onto the front. Thank you, Mandy. It is so pretty. It's amazing what you can do with a little bit of ink and paper and coloring. Okay, so I'm putting this right on the front of my card, lining it up with the bottom here. The side may be a little bit off, but that's okay. We got our card ready. That's our basis of our card. Now we're going to do the busted technique. Are you ready for this? This is pretty fun. Okay, so what you're going to do is take your designer series paper, decide which side you want to be on the front and which side you want to see opening up. I want this one on the front. This is up and down. It does have a direction. It looks like all of the fruit is hanging off the tree. So I'm going to poke a hole right in the middle. And then you're going to cut, and it does not have to be perfect. Cut up towards the top about 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch. And then you'll want to do the same thing towards the bottom. And I'm going to do a little bit to the side, just kind of like this. And then come back to that center part and cut over to one edge, leaving about 3/4 of an inch on one side. So you can see this opening up like this. And one side like that. Then I'm going to come back in and do the same thing here until it's about 3/4 of an inch away from one edge, one side. And then here again, so you've got an X in the middle and then a couple more on the other side. There we go. So they're all done. Now I want to now that I've done all my cutting, I can glue this one with the back side around the edges. That's why we left a little bit of an edge. We're going to cover up the thing we just stamped, making sure that it's the right side up. Oh, sticky fingers. Okay, here we go. On the bottom, I may have to cut off some of the edges of this card. Trying to get on as close to possible to covering the whole front of the card. Okay, got a little bit right here. We can trim that off if we need to. Little white. I'll use my paper trimmer later so I don't have to make any mistakes. So you've got this. Now this is the fun part. You're going to make sure, you may want to hold your paper over before you glue it down to make sure that you've opened up enough to see this image. But even then, I could come in here and say, okay, I need to do a little snip right here, like that. So then what you're going to do is start taking each of these little pieces and roll them tight. Roll them because paper has a little bit of a memory. You want this to be kind of tight until it doesn't roll anymore. You can kind of let it go. And do that with this one too. Oh, got a reminder reminding me to go pick up something. Love it that we have something that will remind us of the things that we've got to do, especially in this day and age, right? Okay, so we're just rolling it as tight as we can, as far as we can, revealing underneath it like this is just busting right out of a painted canvas. Do, 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 do. You could use on the inside, maybe you could cut out one of the pieces from this designer series paper, one of the images, instead of coloring it. You could use a Memories and More card pack to get an image that you want to have in this inside. So there's lots of opportunities here. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm just rolling up all of these pieces. And then you can adhere these down if you want to. And I found that the best thing to use, I've tried glue dots, and I've tried seal, and I tried liquid glue. Don't use liquid glue. Probably the best thing would be hot glue. That's what they use too in the ones with real canvas. But I also found that a little bit of, if you use, well, I'll show you a little bit of sticky strip. Not sticky strip, that's what it used to be called. Tear and tape. Tear and tape works really good. Okay, so I'm just rolling this all back. Can you see how it looks like it's just kind of popping right out of the canvas here? Then, okay, I can see I need a little bit right here so I can see best kind of person. We're going to just snip a little bit more so that it kind of comes out here. You can play with your paper. Oh, thank you, Carlene. It's fun. It is fun to create art, isn't it? So you can play with your paper. You can kind of have it folding back and maybe having this point fold out like this. In which case, I'm going to take a little tiny piece of tear and tape, put it onto the end of this flap like this, and then put it down flat. Oh, whoops, let's make sure that it sticks to the back of our paper. It just wants to come right back off. I do appreciate your comments, so thank you. I'll put you right here on the front screen here. Glad that this is just kind of a fun piece of art that you can mail. Well, you'd have to mail it inside a box. You could put it inside a box. So that one kind of has a little tail right there. Maybe this one I want to undo, or this one, see how it's kind of coming back? It would be easy to let it just kind of come a little bit like this. So let me show you. I'll finish this up. You can't just leave it because your paper will remember. It has this memory now that you have curled it. It will stay like that. But you can just kind of let it go like this or glue it down if you don't want it to move. You can make it larger or smaller. But that is your busted canvas technique. You can leave them curled under. You can take one of the points and come out if you want to. Let's take this one out. I just kind of like to look like, it's almost like a, what is it called? Comic strip, when they bust out of the paper. Bust out. There we go. So there's our fun one that looks like this. Of course, this is a great time to add a little bit of bling. And I had some bling out here. What happened to it? Well, we'll use this one. This will be perfect. You're the best kind of person, it says. This is a good time to use anything that's bumpy anyway, because you're not going to mail it. You're going to put it in a box. You're going to put it on a bag. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to put that one on there too. I want this little point to come out. I'll do that later. So you can add bumpy jewels, kind of in a triangle somewhere. Here's another little piece. So you've got some bling going on. You need one more right down here. Kind of like them together. Okay, so that's the one that I made with. Isn't this fun? I know. Yes, I thought about Christmas product, Jamie. You're right. It would be totally cool with Christmas product. But since we've got the designer series paper going on, I wanted you to know that you needed to grab some designer series paper. So this is a sneak peek of another designer series paper or another suite that is coming in the mini catalog. And this one is called Nests of Winter. Oh, this one's apparently my stuff didn't stick right here. So if you need to, you can take a pencil or a stylus or something and just kind of squish it down where the adhesive may be. So this one is the Nests of Winter suite. And I used the paper and then busted out of the center. Don't you think that is so much fun? I just had a great time. So I really do think, though, that the hot glue is going to be your best friend if you want it to stay down. If not, just let it come out like this, because it really does look like it just popped right out of the. And since you're not putting it into an envelope, you could just let it kind of roll over the edge of the card. And when you stand it up, there's plenty of room to be able to see it. Isn't that just a fun technique? And of course, I added more bling on this one as well. I love this set that's coming, as I said, in the September mini catalog, because it kind of is Christmassy or wintry, but it's not really Christmassy. It's just that time of year, where you want to send something, and it's good for Christmas and beyond into January and February. Much love. Yeah. So that is our busted canvas technique on a card. What do you think? Oh, thank you, Mandy. I'm glad that you love the blue as well. Oh, I do too. I love just having it pop out kind of is a fun technique. And you'll see a lot of it on YouTube. If you go search for busted canvas, you'll see some who are doing this actually on canvases that you could frame. And so the wheels of creativity are just turning right now, saying, yeah, what a great idea. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing this. I appreciate being here and commenting. It makes me know that I can talk to my friends, but I'm just hanging out with you and crafting with you today. All right, we'll be back next week. I have a couple more fun things to do with pattern paper. As long as our pattern paper sale is going through the end of the month, we'll be back with more ways to use it. We'll see you next Monday.